You know that sinking feeling when you look at your garden bed and realize the soil has completely given up on you? That's exactly where I was 3 months ago. My once thriving vegetable patch had turned into what I can only describe as concrete dust, lifeless, gray, and refusing to grow anything except my frustration. I'd tried compost, I'd added mulch, I'd even whispered encouraging words to it, "Don't judge me," but nothing worked. Then I stumbled upon something so simple, so readily available, that I almost dismissed it entirely. But desperation makes experimenters of us all, and what happened next completely transformed my understanding of soil recovery. I was visiting my grandmother's farm when I noticed something peculiar. Her garden was absolutely thriving. Lush tomatoes, vibrant peppers, herbs that looked like they belonged in a magazine spread. Meanwhile, she was pouring what looked like murky brown water from a 5-gallon bucket onto her beds. When I asked what on earth she was doing, she just smiled and said, "Worm tea, dear, been using it for 40 years. That's when everything clicked. Worm tea, or vermicompost tea to give it its proper name, became my secret weapon against dead soil. But here's what shocked me most. It wasn't just about adding nutrients. This liquid gold was actually bringing my soil back to life at a microbial level, creating an entire ecosystem where there had been nothing but dust. Before we dive into the solution, let's talk about why soil dies in the first place. This was my biggest revelation. Soil isn't just dirt, it's a living, breathing ecosystem containing billions of microorganisms that work together to break down organic matter, cycle nutrients, and support plant growth. When we talk about dead soil, we're really talking about soil where this microbial community has collapsed. My soil had died because I'd made every mistake in the book. I'd over-tilled, disrupting the fungal networks. I'd used synthetic fertilizers that fed plants directly but starved the soil biology. I'd let the beds dry out completely during a harsh summer, baking away any remaining life. The result was compacted, hydrophobic soil that water would literally run off rather than soak into. Sound familiar? Here's where the science gets exciting. When you brew worm tea properly, you're creating a concentrated liquid teeming with beneficial bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and nematodes. We're talking millions of microorganisms per teaspoon. But it's not just about the numbers. It's about diversity. The worm castings used to make the tea contain a complete spectrum of soil life. These microorganisms immediately get to work when applied to dead soil. The bacteria start breaking down any organic matter present, making nutrients available to plants. The fungi begin rebuilding those crucial networks that help plants communicate and share resources. The protozoa feed on bacteria, releasing nitrogen in a form plants can actually use. It's like introducing a construction crew to an abandoned building site. Suddenly, there's activity and progress everywhere. What absolutely shocked me was how fast I saw results. Within 2 weeks of my first application, I noticed the soil texture changing. It started accepting water instead of repelling it. By week 4, I found earthworms, actual earthworms, moving back into beds that had been lifeless. That's when I knew something profound was happening. Let me walk you through my exact process because getting this right makes all the difference. I started with high-quality worm castings, which you can either buy or produce yourself if you have a vermicomposting system. For my 5-gallon bucket, I used about 2 cups of castings. The key is to brew it aerobically, meaning with lots of oxygen. I used an aquarium air pump with an air stone which cost me less than $20 and has paid for itself 100 times over. I filled my bucket with dechlorinated water, either rainwater or tap water that sat out for 24 hours to let the chlorine evaporate. Chlorine kills microbes, which defeats the entire purpose. Then I added 1 tablespoon of unsulfured molasses. This is crucial. The molasses feeds the microbes, causing them to multiply exponentially during the brewing process. I let the whole mixture bubble away for 24 to 36 hours, no longer. After 48 hours the oxygen can run out and the tea can go anaerobic, which creates a completely different product that can actually harm your soil. The finished tea had a sweet, earthy smell, kind of like a forest after rain. If it smells bad or putrid, something went wrong and you shouldn't use it. I applied my first batch of worm tea on a cool morning, diluting it at a ratio of about 1 part tea to 10 parts water. This is important for beginners. While you can apply it more concentrated, diluting it helps the microbes spread further and reduces any risk of overwhelming your soil. So, I used a watering can and thoroughly soaked the soil, making sure to get good penetration. I wasn't just sprinkling the surface, I wanted those microorganisms working their way down through the soil profile. For my most damaged beds, I applied the tea weekly for the first month, then switched to every 2 weeks. The transformation was honestly remarkable. The soil that had been hard and crusty started developing structure. When I dug down a few inches, I could see it was becoming crumbly and darker in color. But the real test came when I planted lettuce seeds in week 6. They germinated in 3 days and grew faster than anything I'd seen in years. While worm tea was the catalyst, I learned that truly reviving dead soil requires a holistic approach. I started adding a thin layer of compost as a mulch, which gave the microbes something to feed on between tea applications. I stopped tilling completely, allowing the soil structure to rebuild naturally. So, I planted cover crops in my off-season beds, buckwheat clover and winter rye, which, honestly, added a ton of organic matter and kept the soil biology active all year round. I also became pretty religious about keeping the soil covered and moist. Those microbes really need consistent moisture to thrive, and bare soil exposed to harsh sun can undo weeks of progress in just a single hot afternoon. A simple layer of straw mulch made an enormous difference. 3 months into my soil recovery journey, and honestly, I'm still discovering new benefits. My plants are noticeably more resilient to pests and diseases. Apparently, healthy soil creates healthy plants with, stronger immune systems. My water bills have actually dropped because the improved soil structure holds moisture better. And the vegetables, they taste better. I know that sounds kind of subjective, but my tomatoes have a depth of flavor they've never had before. The most shocking result, though, was discovering that an entire ecosystem had returned. I now find ground beetles, centipedes, and all sorts of beneficial insects in my beds. There are even birds that visit regularly to hunt for grubs. What was dead ground has really become a thriving habitat. If you're dealing with dead, lifeless soil, I promise you don't have to rip everything out and start over with expensive amendments. Worm tea gave me back my garden, and honestly, it can do the same for you. Start small, brew a batch, and apply it to your worst bed. Watch what happens over the next few weeks. Take photos so you can track the transformation. You'll definitely want to remember where you started. Have you tried worm tea or other biological approaches to soil health? I'd love to hear about your experiences. Drop a comment below and let's learn from each other. And if this article helped you understand how to bring your soil back to life, hit that subscribe button and share this with a fellow gardener who needs hope for their struggling beds. Together we can build healthier soil and grow the gardens of our dreams, one bucket of tea at a time.